What is going on, everybody? This is Coach Coleman, Jesse Coleman, and you're now checking into Breakthrough Blueprint, the podcast, where we're going to help you tap into your full potential. And today's episode. So here's the beautiful thing about today's episode. My guest today is one of my best friends. This young lady is somebody that I think highly of, and I whoop somebody ass over her like without even asking questions. And for us, we actually meet once a week and then we just have conversations. We just talk. So I'm like, you know what? It would be great for us to kind of pull the curtains back and have our weekly meeting as a podcast. And so you all can check in and see what we got going on. So without further ado, from New York, New Jersey, the wonderful Harjot. Harjot, welcome.
Hi, best friend. First of all, intro video, phenomenal. I was like bumping to the music in the background. I was like, oh my God, this is so good. And secondly, you're so sweet. I love you.
Hey, so fun fact for you all that don't know, that little snippet is actually one of my songs that I created back when I used to rap.
No
Maybe I'll
way.
link yeah, maybe I'll link the full song in the description. I'll definitely send it to you after we done so you can check it out. But yeah, that was
Wait,
one of my
that's a
things.
great song.
Oh, wait till you even hear. Like it's amazing.
Yeah, you gotta change up your like description line now. So it's like real estate coach, trainer, keynote speaker, producer, all the things.
Just everything.
All the
All right,
things.
Joe, what is going on? Like I said, when I was introing you, that we met each other. I think it was right 2019, 2020,
Yeah,
when pandemic
2020.
was going on or whatever,
Yeah, yeah.
and when the world was shut down and we were on Zooms together. We was a part of a book club, and then the friendship just started growing from there. And then we got to finally meet each other in person in Orlando for
Yep.
our real estate conference, and we've been locked in since then. So
Yep.
tell the world about you, um, where you from, and yeah, we'll go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, that was like one of my favorite years was between 2020 and 2022, just especially through KWYP, just meeting everyone, including you, and finding like just such a good circle of friends and all the stuff. Yeah, a little bit about me. My name is Harjot Kaur. I am a real estate agent out of New York City and New Jersey with Keller Williams. Um, President of the KWYP chapter out here, which has been a big part and also a big part of how we know each other so well. And yeah, I've been in the industry for like almost 10 years now, which is crazy. I complain, or I
Crazy.
shouldn't say complain, I share with you a lot about how I never intended to be in the industry, let alone stay in the industry. So it's always kind of funny every time I say how long I've been in it. I always kind of surprise myself. But yeah, it's been something I'm actually extremely grateful for, and something in the past few years that's been big for me to start to kind of clarify why I do stay and like this industry and what it means for me, and that's been really powerful. But yeah, I mean, mostly, a full time gig. Everything is real estate right now, but a lot of hopes and aspirations for the next few years and things to change.
So I think your story is so fascinating of your career before real estate.
Yeah,
All right. We don't have to go too deep into it, but
yeah, yeah, yeah. Just
I
the
would love for
cursory.
you to share that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I graduated from college with the intention to go straight into a psychology doctorate program. My major was psych and all sorts of social sciences, and it was always something that I've always wanted to do. I've been on a very academic type of route my whole life, and worked at some premier hospitals in research and psychology. So, like John Hopkins was my first job, then Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. Loved what I did, and unfortunately the starting pays, even if I was to stay at it for 5 to 7 years, was just fairly low, given that living in New York City and all that. So I always had like a second or a third job, and somehow closer to 2015 my sister had just gotten married. I was maxed out on all my credit card debts and all this stuff, and I was like, okay, I really got to bring some extra change in. I rented an apartment, and I was like, wow, the broker commission was kind of high. I probably could do this, and I needed something. I needed an extra job just to kind of keep things going. Everyone suggested restaurant or bartending so I could do it nights and weekends. And I don't know how to do either of those things, real estate has always been, architecture and stuff like that. Solving people's problems has always been fun to me. And that's kind of how I got started. So started at a different firm, New York City only, as a rental agent. And I did that for the first like 3 to 4 years. I was with a partner at that time. All things were good. Never intended to stay much further. It was just enough to kind of replenish my savings and eventually apply back to a doctorate program. And it just kind of kept going, moved to Keller Williams, was very excited, and got licensed in Jersey that same year. So that was like, I think 2018 or 2019, something like that. And I think that was the first time I started to really feel personally challenged, not just professionally. And I think that that's kind of been the hook for me ever since, amongst other things. But that was definitely like, you know what, I'm going to split with my partner. Obviously, I'd already split and gone to a different firm. We were at Keller Williams and went solo, and I went full time. I quit all of my other jobs. And so it was just real estate. And that's how it's been since.
So let's touch bases on that real quick. Like, what was there a definitive moment? Was there something that triggered you for like, okay, I need to make this change? And when you made that change, was there any apprehensive thoughts? Was there things that like, oh shit,
Yeah.
should I even do this?
I don't think it was a definitive moment, but definitely like a definitive season. So towards the end of that year, I think it had been 6 months that we were at Keller Williams, and my partner and I were kind of doing a lot of like database work. And a lot of what you do once you're at Keller Williams is you're always identifying your goals and then your plan to achieve them. And in doing so and being very clear, and it was really exciting because this was the first time I ever really got that deep into that's part of it, and learning about being a business owner or whatnot. None of that was ever something I'd ever had interest in, or even realized that I was kind of partially doing it already. And so over the course of, again, being at Keller in 6 months and having experienced a whole new world of real estate agents and real estate professionals at large, I think I started being like, you know what, it's either now or never. So either I commit to being a full-time and fully committed real estate agent and real estate business owner, or I should just go back into the alternative now. Like it's
Right.
like dilly-dallying between both was not really helping me at that point. And I was like in my mid-20s. And so I was like, what do I want to do with my life? So all those kind of like normal questions that pop up at that time. I was surrounded by some agents that for the first time I was really inspired by. Again, I come from a super academic background, very, like all the places I've been at, these people are like crazy educated, they're crazy smart, they're doing crazy cool kind of things. And so coming to real estate, especially when you're kind of working just rentals and doing this, it's kind of like Wild Wild West. And you're kind of like you're really filled with more people who are go-getters, not necessarily like the academic side of things, and so
Yeah.
conversations look different. And it was very uncomfortable for me, because I just wasn't used to it. And I didn't really know how to, like, I was used to like, okay, if you do this, then you will unlock this promotion or this degree or this
Right.
grade or something, right? That was no longer the case. There was no clear cut, do this, that happens, other than you just have to do. That was the only thing.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that 6 months period, after that had passed, it was really just like either now or never. And I was like, I'm going to give myself 2 or 3 years. And if I can start to consistently make over 6 figures, then I need to see what I want to do. Because up until that point, I had never touched, and I was not even close to making 6 figures. And thankfully that did come soon, and then COVID happened. So then there's a lot of new things that happened. So that did kind of change things around anyway. But that, I guess, was kind of the best way I can say that was just, it was a season of just being like this internal pressure of what's next and do it bigger.
So what was that like for you? Like, we had you made the transition,
Mhm.
then COVID happened. Was there a mental effect that kind of threw you off? And if there was, what were like some of the things that you used to get you back grounded and keep
Yeah.
you steady to go through those?
It's so funny because like trying to reflect on it, you're kind of like, I have no idea what the heck happened that year. Like it was all such a whirlwind. I will never forget. There was one night, I just don't remember the date, but April 2020. I could not sleep. It was one of the most anxiety, panicked nights that I had. And I had this one deal. It was my first really big luxury kind of deal that was supposed to close in March of 2020. And then obviously that got delayed. It actually didn't end up closing till August that year. And it was a very like my clients, thank God for them, they were phenomenal. But everything else about that transaction was awful. Everything, like any which way you could think of it. But that was the deal that I was really holding on to as not just like a financial means of things, but kind of like a testament that yes, this is your sign to stay in the industry, kind of a thing, right? I had finally started making some sales the year prior, so I felt kind of good. But then this was kind of the seal or the sign that I was looking for. And so when all of that happened, obviously COVID's happening. There's a lot of personal things happening. April 2020, I could not sleep. I woke up from 4 a.m. till 10 a.m. I did nothing but apply to jobs. I think I applied to like 20 or 30 jobs. I had to fix my resume up. I'm like shooting my shot anywhere, everywhere. And I remember in May, I finally got a call back on one of those jobs.
Right.
And it was nearing the time when things were going to start opening up and all that stuff too. I took the interview and I got a call back, did that one as well. And then finally, I think it was mid-June, end of June, things were opening up for sure. Things were getting busy again. Things were, I don't want to say on the up and up, but like kind of on the up and up. And she was just like, do you want the job or not? But like you kind of can't really do real estate, or if you are, you're going to go back to doing it weekends and nights and, you know, all the stuff. Yeah. And I just remember sitting in the parking lot of a coffee shop and I was just like, shit, it's the same problem. Like, what do I do? And then I ended up just saying, no, I promised myself 2 or 3 full years, and at least half the year with COVID doesn't count. So I just came back to it. But yeah, that was not easy. That was definitely not easy. As like an agent who was just kind of starting up, and honestly, thank God I was already like in the industry, because if I wasn't, I really think I would have just been like, okay, maybe another time and just called it quits.
Yeah.
But that was and I will say I was also a tech trainer at that time. So it wasn't just like trying to keep all my deals together and doing all this stuff. I was also helping agents out of one of my office try to navigate stuff. And I felt terrible because it's not their fault. They didn't know technology to the same extent that we do and stuff like that as younger agents. Right. So it was just an interesting, but we were logged online 8 a.m. to like 2 a.m. just trying to make something stick. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a wild time. And for, being in the real estate industry and, you're doing, the tech part, helping people, it's a little bit more of a, I don't want to say headache because that's a bad word to say. Well, fuck it. Yeah, it's a headache because you're dealing with a lot of different people, a lot of different emotions, different personality types, and you have to keep it together to make sure things can go smooth.
Yeah.
So let's shift gears just a little bit. Outside of work, I know you outside of work. Just what are some things that people may not know about you, like hobbies or things like that?
Honestly, if you know me enough, you could probably figure out what I'm like outside of work too. But I mean, for the most part, I would say I definitely, there's not a lot of extra time to usually do stuff. When I can, it sounds basic, but it's really the richest thing in my mind is I spend every moment I can with like my family and my friends. Yeah. So anytime I can squeeze in extra time with my nieces and nephews, my cousins, my own family, like my dad, my siblings, all of my time will go there and with my friends. I love to be in different settings. So if I can, even if it's like at 2 hours and I can take a train or drive somewhere, mountains, beaches, like anything that is scenic and nature oriented, I will be in my happy place all day long. As long as I'm in the sun, or even if I'm not in the sun, whatever. As long as I'm somewhere else, somewhere new, like I will soak it all up. It definitely does something to my soul right away. And then everything else is, you kind of have a splash of this, splash of that, Yeah. So yeah.
This just made me think. I don't know what made me think about it, but I felt like I should have said this at the beginning of how actually our weekly um, me this came about. And the reason I think about that is because I had Winnie on, and not only Winnie, but also Antoinette Perez, and we talked about how we love, yes, being grateful and living in gratitude is an amazing thing. And
Yeah.
sometimes you just need to vent. Sometimes you just
Yes.
need to complain about shit. And I feel very vindicated because they said yes, you have to have that time to where you could just get shit out, and as long as you don't stay there, but you have to get it out. And it's funny because that's how our weekly things came about, where
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like, people be like, "Oh, you got to be grateful," and we just want to be grateful. Yes, and the way we operate, we need to be able to vent, get shit out. We need to be able to talk about the stuff that's going on. And
100%.
after we do that, we have dialogue and we have conversations about, okay, so what is our next step after that?
Yeah.
So, for the people that's listening and they probably in a place where they're struggling because they feel like they should not complain or they feel like they should not vent. What do you say to them?
I say you should do what's right for you. Like it may not work for everybody, and like the place that makes the most sense is whatever. But I am fully of the mindset that for me and for many people in my camp, like you, I can be grateful and complain at the same time. Like it doesn't mean that I'm not gonna alter like it doesn't diminish my internal gratitude or perspective of a situation or anything like that. But sometimes my way of dealing with it and in still a healthy way is just to get that shit out, curse about it, vent about it, complain about it, and then it's gone. Like it's not, I think what matters the most is that you don't harbor on negativity or let that
Yeah.
fester. And for me, my negativity or my scarcity thoughts or whatever they may be will spiral and fester if I don't get them out. And so um, I, I will definitely not be the person who's like the rosiest, forever positive. Every single word out of my mouth is not, yeah.
Yeah, it's
I'll
funny
definitely curse
because
my way out of a situation if I have to.
yeah, and the reason I bring it up because for you all listening again, like Harjo said, you have to do what's best for you to help you maneuver through things, and for a lot of us, we have to be able to get that shit out. Like that, I
Yeah.
know that's very big for me. Like once I'm able to get things out, vent,
Yeah.
I feel good. I'm ready to move on. Like
Yeah.
okay,
That's how it is.
great, and you just have to be able to do it because I think one of the things too is it helps us to accept it, like, okay, acknowledge it, accept it. Now let me move on. And I
Right.
got it out, I got it done, and I want to move forward with it.
Yeah. I love like, some folks have shared different time intervals of, you have a 5-minute funeral, 1 hour funeral, whatever it is over the situation. And I think that that's a great perspective. And I do try to implement that more at least. But at the same time, like I can still grieve after a funeral if I feel like it and curse about it or complain about, you know what I mean? It's like the idea is that you just can't sit in it to the point that it keeps you ineffective or unable to do other things. And that will look different for everybody, right? There are certain times where it's like, I am fully aware that something is not worth the time it's taking, on my
Yeah.
brain or in my lifetime, whatever. Um, and I will do what but sometimes it's just not the same. It's not like the same template. You just like apply the same thing and it works every time the same way.
Yeah, and I think that's key. I think that's key for people to realize and remember that it's not going to be the same for every situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you might have a situation where you have to, you may have to sit in it for a little bit. Like a situation may happen where yes, you're going to have to face whatever that is going on, and it may take a little bit of time. But then there's going to be other situations where it's just like, oh, I'm a curse, I'm gonna get it out, and now I'm
Yeah.
moving on to the next thing, and I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, and I think that like for me again, like I mean, obviously I come from a psychology background, so like a part of me that is very strong is always trying to figure out the why because when I can understand the why, I feel I have more control over trying to keep from something happening again or improving some whatever the situation is. And sometimes things that are small are bigger for us because they're actually like hidden triggers. And if you're not also sometimes like reflecting on what it is, you can't identify that and A, give yourself grace that, oh shit, oh, that was because of that. That makes sense, right? Or B, also, it's like, if that is a trigger that you're not recognizing, it will get infinitely worse. And I think that that's something that when anybody, whether you're a real estate agent or not, like when you're just super busy with your life, it could be because, you know, you're just trying to keep up with a parenting schedule or whatever your day is filled with. And especially when it's repeatedly that way, it is so much easier to just handle what is external to us and get through the day and all that. And sometimes stopping to reflect on what's internal is so uncomfortable that it takes up the brain power you don't have. And
Yeah.
I think that that is truthful and also still something that needs to be worked on in whatever way makes sense for that person or that situation. But that has been a big thing for me. I recognize that I have more time in my life at this point, you know, not being married or having kids and all that kind of stuff, that one day I'm not going to have all of that free time on my hands. So I'd rather try to deal with more stuff now. And also because I love hearing this from other people, other entrepreneurs that I respect a lot, that in their professional and their personal life, what shows up the most is the way that is how much they can get out of their own way, you know?
Yeah.
So to me, a big goal is, that's always overarching, is I just want to improve so that I can use my time more wisely. And I'm fully aware that my emotions can take up more time, even if it doesn't look like it. I know this is like the high functioning anxiety stuff that anyone can talk about for hours, but that's definitely like, you know, on that stuff, on that line of things.
Yeah. And so there's a common theme from, different episodes, and it's all it's all coming together. Like, it's been a
Yeah.
common theme of, we have to self-discover. We have to realize what our triggers are. We have to realize what internally is going on to make us get into these certain moods. And I know me and you had this conversation in one of our weekly meetings where she was Coach Harjot on my ass. She laid into me for about an hour and a half, and she coached me, and I am very grateful for that, because we had some hard conversations. I had to self-discover some things. I had to be real. I had to be right about, some situations and things like that. And, you know, it made me take a look at myself, and you also didn't let me sit in that. Okay, you accepted your part in things, situations that happen, and you can't sit in that. How were you going to use those things to grow and, move on to the next thing? uh that was one part. Then the next part, and we talked about this not too long ago, where you say, while you have the free time now, you're going to do what it is that you want to do, because in the future those things can possibly change. So, with knowing that, is there anything that you're prepping for, or like, if those things do change, are you thinking ahead of, like, okay, what may change with you, what may, things
Yeah.
may be different then?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure on the personal side of things, like some things are definitely going to change for me in the next like year or two. And I hope that they do. I think seeing all of my friends and how they go through real estate or not, right? Like my sister, my friends, and family members who have young kids. And I'm saying this now from like a woman's perspective, right? It's insane how much has to get done with such little time, you know? And the thing that I think a lot of, again, women, especially those in my world anyway, do talk about, and I'm so happy that it's much more of a conversation now, is the level of like mental and physical impact just by being a woman, like whether it's your hormones, whether it's like postpartum, whether it's whatever it may be, right? This like this very like intrinsic need to care for relationships at like a deeper level. And like if I'm getting married, like it matters a lot, especially in my culture anyway, as a woman, to be taking care of like my own family and their family, not in a bad way, not in like this is like gender in equal way anymore or anything like that. It's just
Right.
that there's something intrinsic that it's like it just eats at you. Even if everything else is balanced outside, it's constantly on your brain. So I think that there's definitely something that I'm anticipating where I feel like the only way I know how to navigate it is almost being like mentally and emotionally prepared. Because what
Mm.
and I say all this because one thing that is extreme, it's like one of my top values and so important to me is like to be present. I
Yeah.
Life is as long as it's going to be for you, and that can seem very short sometimes, and may actually be very short sometimes. And that means that every moment that you're able to, like, if I'm with my nieces and nephew for the day, I don't want to be on my phone. Like, I don't want
Yeah.
to, and not just I don't want to be on my phone, I don't want to be thinking about work or anything else, right?
Yeah.
I want to just enjoy it with them because on their side, this is a moment they get to have with their aunt, and we don't know what kind of core memories things make, but like that's the kind of impact we all know has on kids. So that's just like one example. It's an important example for me, but same thing with my dad. He's 87 years old. I don't know when we're going to have one of our last seasons and all that. And it's not in any sort of like a morbid way. It's just like, hey, it's good. It's good motivation to enjoy your moments more. Um,
Yeah.
but anyway, so yes, like I think that what means a lot to me is to feel emotionally and mentally prepared, knowing how I am. And I'm glad I have like a decent amount of self awareness of like what my like limits are and stuff like that. And that way I feel like it's going to be a crapshoot no matter what. You ask any woman who's
Yeah.
had a kid, it's always a crapshoot no matter how good you try to make it. But the only thing that can make it any better is both the support system that you have around you, and then also kind of like not actually having expectations and just kind of being able to move through stuff. So, um, yeah, I don't know, a whole lot of just different things.
So that's one thing that I love about you, and what's the word I'm looking for? I really admire about you is that you handle, like, it doesn't matter what situation, like if you have things going on, you're very stoic when it comes to, a lot of things. Like, yes, you vent, yes, you get stuff out, but you've never been one of those people that I know that, you go over the top with it. Like,
Yeah.
you'll vent, you'll say some things, or a lot of times you keep things, in. When you're
Yeah.
dealing with things do you have a personal outlet for yourself? Because the reason I
Yeah.
ask, because you know me, I internalize a lot of things,
Right.
and there's a lot of shit that I just deal with internally. So it do you have any hacks or anything that you do when you're dealing with things to be able to get through it when you're not, you know, expressing it, sort of say?
Yeah. I definitely have gotten a lot better. Well, sometimes I feel like I fall into old habits of like also internalizing a lot. And I will feel it's almost like you can feel the stress in your body. You feel like okay, I haven't smiled in like a day. Like you can notice the physical, parts of that. But I 100% am super happy, and I've always been very lucky that I've had a very strong like friend system, family system. My family and I were all very close. My siblings and I, my dad and I, super close. So always have somebody to talk to that way. Also out of my friend system, and honestly, like the friends that I've made through work, through our like KWYP group and stuff, like you, the fact that like every Monday we talk for like 30 minutes, an hour, and we just catch up on stuff. Like even if you don't actually have something to necessarily vent about in that moment, just being able to connect with somebody and talk to somebody freely and super raw. Like it's like I'm not thinking about what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That is incredibly foundational. And so I think the when those moments do happen, when you do have shit to talk about or express, it's much easier to then approach. Like I can call you, be like, just if you have like 30 minutes, because I already trust
Yeah.
you. I already feel so comfortable with you. And I'm very grateful that I have dozens of people in my life in all different kinds of like angles that I can talk to. So yeah, so many people.
Yeah. So for you all that's listening, again, for me, with doing this, I want to give you all like practical things you can do, like if you're dealing with these situations. And
Oh, right.
one of those things is what is your circle like? Take
Yeah.
account to the people you have in your circle, because to Harjot's point, she is one of the very few people that I can call to, I can open up to, I can vent about. And I'll just say this, for a person that keep things in and internalize everything, that has been such a game changer for me mentally, to be able to have somebody that I can, get things out with. Because again, if I hold on to things too much, it it turns bad, where I just completely shut everybody out, everything down, and I'm not fucking with anybody. So
Mhm.
take account of your circle. Highlight people that you feel you have that bond with, that trust with, that connection with, that you can be able to go to when you have stuff going on. You could be able to vent to, and just it'll start being more easier for you to get through those hard times you're going through.
And I will also add, and I'm saying this as somebody who's also trying to improve on this, but success is very clear when I do. You have to move your body. Like if you're stressed, move your body. And like I live in an apartment, so sometimes I don't feel like getting out of my apartment to walk all the way downstairs to go walk outside or whatever it is, right? But whether it's inside my unit or at least anytime, like if you can force yourself 10-minute walk and then suddenly it turns into a 30-minute walk, it works every single time. You think clearer, you feel lighter, all the chemicals that are releasing, everything is literally working in your favor. And if you can even just go for a full workout, like every single time it's a 10 out of 10, like never failed me. So moving the body is undeniably, I think so, in like immediate fix. Like if you need that immediate validation, that's that.
It's funny you say that, because it was over the past few months that I just noticed that I was going like crazy at the gym. Like I was my best friend Jerome, like, man, you've been going hard. And I'm like, okay, I realize that I am beating myself down in the gym because I'm dealing with bullshit. And you know, it's a healthier way to get it out. And I talked to my coach about it. She like, I am I'd rather you go to the gym and beat yourself up than the other alternatives. And I
Yeah,
just started laughing. I'm like, you know what? You have a point.
that's
Because
true.
there's a lot of other BS that I could be doing to deal with the shit that I'm going through. Yet I choose to go to the gym. And to your point of just moving your body, just
Yeah.
getting it moving, putting it under some form of stress. It doesn't have to be a lot, but just to be able to release those things that you have built up.
Yeah. And I think the other for me is also like my what I usually will resort to when I'm kind of just at my wits is like screen time. So like movies,
Mm.
shows, like social media, like I'll just scroll through. And so for me, when I realize like my watch time is getting really high, I'm like, okay, something's really wrong. Like I need to change. But like that's how I feel like I zone out. Um, and I don't actually enjoy it most of the time. You just kind of get into that freeze. And yeah, so for me, it's like just being like, nope, just go put on workout clothes. Don't even put on workout clothes. Like do
Yeah.
whatever to go outside. Just go move around. And I think just even just changing your environment, right? Like if you're feeling stressed and you're constantly at the office, like don't go to the office for a few days. Go to a cafe. Like go somewhere else. I work from home a lot, and I actually need to push myself to go to the office sometimes because
Right.
I need people, or like you just need a different energy around you.
Yeah. And another key element that keeps coming up from different episodes is too that being real with yourself. I said it earlier, I say it
Mhm.
again. Like, you have to be real with yourself. You have to acknowledge what your triggers are. You have to acknowledge, like, if there's an environment that puts you in a certain mood, because things like that happen
Yeah,
so much. And I realized a lot about that with myself. Of, like you said, if I'm having too much screen time, if I'm listening to a certain type of music, which is very, very strange and weird that certain type of music can trigger certain things. And it's music I wouldn't think would trigger shit.
yeah,
I'm like, you know what? Let me go ahead and put on a little gangster rap. You know what I'm saying? Let me get into a
yeah,
good mindset. And that shit triggers something. I'm like, God damn, okay, I gotta go totally left field with something else. So realizing what those triggers are for you, and have a contingency plan for when those things pop up. You
Yeah.
have things you can do to, counter when those things happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I definitely have that too. I have like different like playlists where I'm like, okay, this is my emotion. And it's like very clear. It's like, all right, well. And again, sometimes you
Yeah,
sit in it for a little while. It's not bad to like experience some of those emotions. It's just, if it's starting to like, I will definitely notice when I'm starting to like not be productive because I'm just like, my mind will always circulate all the different routes a certain situation could take or like unexpected, whatever. And I'll be on the phone with, any one of my friends, like my boyfriend, like, and they're so helpful in helping me just, frame it properly. Um, but I think every time between that and being able to move or change my scenario, like my scene has always been the better fit combined.
yeah, that change of scenery really helps. And totally off subject, but on subject. When I came out there to visit 2 years ago,
Mhm.
we went to I think it was a park on the New Jersey. Was it on the New Jersey side?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
where you
Yes.
and I'll add that picture, to this so you all, when you're looking at it on YouTube. And it was downtown New York, right? That's what
So
what it's called
we were
for.
in West New York, New Jersey, overlooking the entire like city skyline from the west side.
And talking about change of scenery, talking about being in a place where you can just, go away in your thoughts. Like we were there and I was just so relaxed.
Yes.
Like I was just sitting there, I was taking pictures. I'm like, this is a very relaxing place. And that
Hmm.
made me, when you said that, that just made me think about that moment of that's a moment I can go back to mentally when I need to get put in a place to just be able to relax and to be able to change my mood. I can go back and pinpoint that actual moment where I was looking across at the skyline of, New York City. So yeah, environment, change your environment. Where you going? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Even if it's those pattern interrupts where if you changing, everybody has their favorite route to go home or something like that. If you change a route and go a different direction and be present and looking at your the surroundings and looking at things, that can also change your mindset too.
Yeah, it's so funny because like that was one of those, and you and I were coming off of like a very intense like conference. You're doing all the things. You and I are also very similar because we love to interact with people, and then when our social battery goes, like we want to be left alone. And like the thing that's really fun because with me and you is now that we know each other well enough, we can do car rides or anything in complete silence and allow ourselves to
Yeah.
recharge in each other's company. And that's kind of what we did at the park too. You and I were so done and very tired. The conference was done, and I was like, "Yo, we're gonna go get a really good burrito. I know a perfect spot, and just go sit." And I don't think you and I even spoke that much, but we were there for like 30 minutes, just eating tacos and our burrito, and just like overlooking the city. And that was a spot because I lived in that area for a long time. That's where I used to go all the time. Good moods, bad moods didn't matter. Um, it's big for me to be outdoors where you can like hear other people. So you're kind of in the vicinity of other people. And this is why I love to live in the city. I love to be around people. I don't necessarily want to talk to them all day, so it's like, and then also people always think that there's like no scenery or outdoor nature, anything around the city, but that's not true. And spots like that are very big for me, and like I'm grateful that where I live now, I'm a little bit closer to the beach too. So like I did that several times last year for the first time. I literally would just drive out to the beach, even in the winter time. And I would just go work from there, even if it's just 2, 3 hours. And I'm such a homebody sometimes that it takes a lot of energy for me to move my setting. I also love my double screen setup at home and all those kinds of little things that
Yeah.
kind of become such little pieces, but enough to like stand in your way. And I was pushing myself last year a lot to kind of just change my scenery around and do this and do that. And like it
Yeah.
works. It really works.
Yeah, that's funny you brought that up, that we are like that. And there's some people that struggle with that. I've been around people where they took it the wrong way when I just needed to be in silence, when I just needed to
Same.
be there. And I'm like, no, this is me recharging my battery. This is me, especially
Yeah.
after I teach a class or I do
Yeah.
something. I need that alone time to regroup, replenish myself. And I've been around people that legit were upset that
Yeah.
I wasn't talking. And I'm like, I just give me about 15, 20 minutes. Like,
That's
I
yeah.
just need that.
That's how
And we
my
are the
face will start
same.
to like dissociate, and like people will be like, "Are you mad?" I'm like, "I swear I'm not mad. It's just what it looks like." Like I'm just trying to recharge.
Yep, and that is so true. Now that I think about it, yeah, we got some food. You show me what certain things are, and
Yeah.
we just sat there
It's
and we let
already
our batteries
yeah.
recharge, and we were good to go.
Yeah, and like it's so fun. Like people always talk about it. Like the best kinds of adult friendships are the ones that could do run errands together, or just sit in silence and be in each other's company together. And so like those, it's just so true. It really is. And I think where we are at, like at a larger kind of global level, I there's not a lot of like free space or like there's not a lot of like white space in our lives anymore. There used to
Yeah.
be a much better balance where people could just kind of relax and kind of get bored a little bit or do whatever. And you don't really have that anymore. So you kind of have to force it. And I think that more and more people are like definitely getting better at doing it too, or understanding it with one another. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then I know definitely for you, and I'll put myself in that category. I don't really like to talk about myself like that, but you have that energy where people just want to be around you.
100%.
And for
Yeah, you should
people, for
definitely be in
people,
that category.
and for people like us, it does get hard
Yeah.
because it's like I just need about 15, 20 minutes. That's
Yeah.
it. But people just want to be around because I know for you, like that's how it is for me. Yet I can be around you and don't say nothing, and I'm getting what I need. I'm getting that energy. I'm getting my battery filled. But for some people, you get a lot of people that just want to be
Yeah.
around you. What do you do, and what is some advice you can give to people that they feel that struggle where it's like everybody wants to come get my energy, and sometimes I need to have my own thing.
Yeah.
Is it just an average goodbye, or was it, hey, give me a few minutes, I'll get back? What does
Yeah.
that look like?
I mean, so I'll use like the conferences that you and I are at all the time where this kind of comes up the most, right? Like
Yeah.
the hacks that have been so important to me this last year and a half, and again, I'm still trying to get better at it, is what I was kind of talking about before. I need to I need to answer all my emails, all my texts, all my calls before the day starts, or have it like, okay, I'm going to have 30 minutes later on, and I'm going to take 15 minutes to just go sit alone because in the back of my brain is working at all times like, oh, I didn't answer this person, and that's like everybody, right? So um I want all of that checked off before or at dedicated times during the conference, so that
Yeah.
during the conference, one of the things that also drains my energy really fast is not just the people I'm interacting with, but like everything that's running in the back of my brain, right? Or if I'm not feeling good about a particular deal or a client or something. So I need that stuff out of my brain. That in itself will make me feel so much more excited, and my social energy will last a lot longer and all that kind of stuff. And like, for instance, like when I was at Mega Camp in August, there was like this one situation that was going on and it was like riding my brain like crazy. And I had two people who knew about it, and I would keep talking to them about it and just get it out of my brain or get like, advice on how to handle it. And then I turned it off.
Yeah.
Also telling clients, hey, I'm unavailable, I'll get to you and at that dedicated time. And then you just have to make sure you're like committing to what you're saying you're going to do, of course. But I really had to time block, like I had to time block in those ways. It also gives you the confidence when you know you've taken care of the stuff that you've done that you need to. It gives you a lot of confidence, and like, it's like you earned that reward to go hang out with your friends or do whatever, and have more social battery. When my social battery is then actually, that all is taken care of and my social battery is still kind of dying out, I literally will just go be like, hey, I gotta go meet somebody, and I don't go meet anybody, and I just kind of walk around aimlessly for a few minutes, or go hide in the bathroom, or like get a coffee or whatever the heck it is. I will also FaceTime like my nieces and nephews because that's like an immediate like rush of fun. And so I don't know, just stuff like that. Like I just have to find and thankfully when you're at the conferences, there's so many corners you can kind of hide in, like
Yeah.
be to the
And
side.
it's funny because I've seen you post when we're at conferences where you'll post and you'll either be by the pool or you'll find
Yeah.
you a nice area and you're like, hey, get in some me time. And
Yeah.
then when you come back around, you're fully
I'm
charged,
standing
ready to
happy.
go.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good to go. That's another thing. I also always forget to eat, so I have to make sure I'm eating. Like it's just like little things of just like being like a functioning adult that like get overlooked when you're at these things that I need to be better about. Oh, and again, in the context of the conferences, but I guess apply it to anything is also only show up for the things that you have the bandwidth or the priority for. So like I definitely have been
Mm,
better about not going to everything that I think I should be at just for the sake of being at. Because that's like an easy way to, and like some of these conferences, it's, you're in a place of a lot of heat or like, whatever the case is, like that takes the toll on your body as well. And so all the stuff.
yeah.
It definitely helps. Like I don't drink for the most part, so it helps to not be worried about being hungover, but being tired over, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, that's the same in my book, right?
That's
So I'm
another
like,
story.
yeah,
Because I will tell you all this. When we get together and we are out, we
yeah,
are out,
we are
we are
out.
out.
And
We are
I
out.
will put everything, and I will say this every time. And again, I'm not saying this as somebody who's like, doing this to like. There's nothing negative about partying if you're doing it responsibly, which all of us do, and it's amazing. And I think that's
Yeah.
why I enjoy it so much because we are actually all doing it very responsibly, right? But the whole point is like we just love to hang out and to like have good nights because for most of us, myself included, these are the only times throughout the entire year that we're hanging out this much. So I will
Yeah.
gladly stay out 3, 4 a.m. I love dancing, so that's a big, just fun outlet for me anyway. But also I just love you guys. So like that, just the two things combined. I mean, hell yeah, I'm gonna enjoy every minute of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can honestly say that's how I am where when I'm at home, I'm ready to go to sleep around nine,
Yeah.
10 o'clock. But
Jesse's posting
but
like
when
19 bedtime, 5 a.m. at the gym. Where y'all at?
li-
Like,
listen, like
totally opposite
I
schedule.
am done, but when I am with y'all and we are somewhere, I'm out to about 3, 4 in the morning.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
crazy,
The time you'd be waking up to
crazy.
go to the gym if you were home is like when you're still out. And I love the like
But
versatility that everybody has.
yeah, and I think that's the beauty of, the bonds and the friendships that we've built where we're willing to forego our sleep.
Yeah, yeah. And we all
To
know it,
hang
so we
with
all
our people.
prepare for it that way.
Yes, we do always prepare to get no sleep because we're going to be hanging out and having a
Yeah,
good time.
yeah.
Uh, so let's talk about this year. We'll be wrapping up in a little bit, but what are you looking forward to this year? Business wise, what do you have in the works, and anything that you want to talk about around that?
So this year is a very big year for me on a personal side, which I won't disclose
Yeah,
just yet, but
right.
a lot of personal stuff happening. And on the professional side, it's exciting because it's kind of pushing me to get a lot more done in less time. So, um, yeah, I mean, I think that I'm just really focused on my productivity per hour kind of thing. And
Yeah,
I remember like in high school or, even college or whatever, like you have like a full course of classes and all that. And I always had at least one, if not two jobs on top. I used to be in like sports teams and all that. And what was always interesting is like when your plate is so full like that, you get so much more done.
yeah,
You are so much more productive and effective with your time. And I'm kind of happy that even though it's very overwhelming to deal with as much as like is going to happen throughout this year, um, that's kind of that works for me, right? And
yeah.
I'm not gonna say I am ADHD, but if I had to self-diagnose myself, that has definitely been starting to get a little bit clearer. And that's one of those things that a lot of people kind of like, with or without it, respond well to. Like I do respond well to deadlines and timelines and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff. So I have been noticing that like I've been a little bit more habitual with some things. I've always struggled with keeping any sort of a discipline or routine. So I have been better on that because of all of the things that need to get done this year. And I've always been very of like a financial scarcity mindset for sure.
Mm.
Still am. Like I think that many of us like kind of growing up the way that we do, like that just is like a big deal, right? I have been trying to flip the script on that a lot and be more, give myself a lot of praise for like how much I've been able to build up for the last few years. I've definitely been able to make some meaningful changes for myself, and that as like, a younger single, like immigrant family, like all that stuff,
Mm.
like, that is huge to me. And it's the kind of stuff that actually in my business, I'm really trying to find ways that I can start to build more around that, like how to help other women, single or not, but especially if you're single and if you're, a child of like an immigrant family,
Yeah.
people of color, just any sort of like community. I think that things are harder to achieve certain goals, financial and otherwise. That has been being able to give myself a lot of like kudos for being able to achieve what I have. So I can flip this scarcity mindset into like an abundance mindset.
Mm.
Very interesting process. Like I'm definitely making
Yeah.
progress in it, but oh my God, you feel like you're in a cage, and like you're trying to like get yourself out, but like you're like super in this cage and you're like, what the heck? I put myself in this anyway, like, and
Right.
so this year I'm going to take a really big hit financially. And so I'm like, how am I going to build this up? Why is this important to me to build it up and all that kind of stuff? And so I've just been trying to have like healthier conversations around that kind of stuff. So I don't feel like I'm like resenting myself for making those financial
Right.
decisions. So yeah.
So that transitions me to this next question. So, between episodes that I release, I have bonus segments, and I actually talk about things in my own personal journal. So I call it the overtime my journal. And one of the things that I talked about on the past segment of that is what is our motivation trigger? And
Mm-hmm.
just hearing you talk about that, are you one of those people that you get motivated from positivity or negativity?
Oh, I wish I could say positivity, but most of it's probably negativity.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah. Also trying to get better about that. And I think that I've seen progress there, but negativity.
It's
Like
funny
very fear-based stuff.
because
That's what you're asking.
it's funny because me, you, and a few other people that I talked to about that actual episode, we all kind of said the same thing.
Yeah.
And now that's really making me curious. Like I want to know if there's research behind it. I'm gonna look into that.
Yeah.
That a lot of us get that extra push, that motivation push when a negative situation happened.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah,
There's a lot of research around this. And I think that that's always been something I've been fascinated about as well, because that's what delivers behavior. So I'm going to say that many of the people that probably say negativity the way that I have comes from lots of fun traumas, small or larger, whatever you want to call it, right? Um, that's just the reality of life, right? And
yeah,
that's just how your brain copes with certain things, right? You come from like a fear-based thing, you're trying to run away from repeating situations or whatever the case is. And it's interesting because there's a lot of different like ways to discuss it. Like one thing that always kind of comes up in my brain is on that topic is this thing. There's definitely books on it, lots of research on it, but I'm sure somebody's coined this term. I don't know who to give credit to, my bad. But there's an internal locus of control and an external locus of control. And the people who think that it's an external piece are like, oh, this was done to me. Like I got sick. It's the world's fault. Or,
mm,
traffic is making me late. I hate traffic, like whatever, versus saying, okay, yes, my body is sick. What can I do about it? Or yes, traffic got me late because I was late to begin with, right? How can I make up for the day? Like that kind of stuff. There is a huge difference in determining who's more successful and who's more likely to be happy. So when you have an
yeah,
internal locus of control, so even though I'm saying, yes, this all comes from a negative place for me, I focus on like trying to make sure I'm like expounding on having the internal locus of control, which thankfully, like, that it's a little bit of like a nature versus nurture kind of a thing, right? But for me, I would say I think it's both nature and nurture have contributed to me feeling like, okay, but what can I do about every situation? That helps me a lot. Versus other people who say negative, but then also say that, well, everything is happening to them, everything is an external locus of control. That's where I think that gets really messed up.
So you just hit another a key point and another part of that, which is beautiful. And so we have the situation where we can get motivation by something positive or something negative. And then the extra layer to that that you just highlighted is that will we let that will we let that situation get us into motion, get us going, or will we use that as an excuse to let it handicap us?
I think that that's exactly where that part of the equation comes from for me, right? Like if you're going to blame
Yeah.
if you're going to blame something outside of you, then it's going to be letting it be a crutch, letting it be an excuse. You're always going to blame everything. You're going to blame your childhood. You're going to blame your family, like whatever the heck it is. Versus some people can say like, yeah, okay, that shit sucks. Then you kind of just like deal with it or whatever it is. And then you take control and you change. Because at some point, it still comes back to you. Like it's still your accountability, your set of actions, how you respond to things. And I know like Keller has like all these Kellerisms around it, right? That are in my opinion, they're very solid. They won't come to me right now, but it's like, it's like how you are reacting to things will determine what continues to happen.
I love that. I love that. That's spot on. Uh, Negative, positive things happen. How will we let that affect us? Will we dwell into that, or will we use that to catapult? And so it's just like it's a
Yeah.
continuous line. It's a
Yeah.
step every step to be able to get to the next part.
Yeah.
So for you all listening, that's one of the things of taking account of which direction do you go. Are you one of those people that get uh, positive or negative situation, whatever does that motivate you, and do you let it handicap you, or do you let it give you that motivation, that push to go? And we can't sit in that negativity. Like something
Yeah.
bad happened, we can't sit in that. We have to move. We have to move. We have to move.
Moving it. Yeah. And actually what you just said about moving is like huge. Like you have to move through your situations, your emotions, like whatever. And this is also going back to like you had said this at some point earlier. You have to be honest with yourself and like what you want and all that. Like not everybody wants to be some
Yeah.
sort of like 7-figure CEO like that. Like that. It's not like everybody's ambition has to be at the same line.
Yeah.
You choose whatever you want out of life, right? And everything it's a great choice. Whatever it means for you, that's a great choice. But the certain principles matter, or there are certain principles like what you just said that you still have to move through. That applies no matter what your level of ambition or what type of goals you have. You have to keep on moving through and
Yeah.
being responsible. I think one thing I have paid attention to a lot in the past few years and starting to become like almost a pet peeve when it's not there is like folks who don't take full ownership over their actions and almost be like overly like take more ownership than less, right? That
Yeah.
to me means that you're taking the ego out of things and you're trying to just do what's right for you and for others. Ego has
Yeah.
always been a pet peeve of mine. I cannot stand it. There's a lot of like cultural baggage around that too, because ego like plays a big role in that stuff. But so that's always been a pet peeve, but I've been noticing it how it shows up in these kinds of conversations even more so when there are certain people that, and I think that has kind of become like a social trend, which is a good thing about trying to be like more vocal about taking ownership, be more responsible, be more accountable. Like
Right.
you see a lot more of that, but sometimes people do it just enough to like stay on trend or like to not get
Yeah.
canceled or like whatever. And like not like, but they're not being honest about it. And you can
Yeah.
always tell when someone's
Yeah.
not really, really taking ownership. And that has been something that even in the rooms, like the people who I do like, and you start to notice that they're one of them, that creates distance for me.
Yeah. I think that's a funny situation lately over the past few years is the uh Jocko talk about extreme
Yeah.
ownership. Especially for us where we've deal with leadership positions where
Yeah.
now it's even more prevalent of if you're a leader, you got to have that extreme ownership. It's got to be on you. And to your point, some people use that as a way to just get the shit off of them. Like, oh
Yeah.
well, you know what? It's my fault. I shouldn't have did that. Hoping people would just be like, oh, it's okay. Well, you took,
Yeah.
blame from, and then they just forget about it. So
And you
you
know it
you
because
see
they
a
repeat
lot of
the same
that.
thing.
Yeah,
Right. So it's like, well, then it's kind of like you keep saying sorry for something that you're not changing. So then what are you apologizing for? And so, yeah. And I think actually how you mentioned leaders, you start to realize that a lot of people that are in like high leadership positions, 100%, they're not taking ownership of shit. And you're like, how the heck did you
no,
get there? Right. And then you
yeah,
also realize it's like, you can kind of fake your way through certain things, not advocating for it, because at some point it will catch up to you. And I think that the ones who succeed in like faking it to make it kind of a thing are the people who also move around quickly. It's like you're
yeah,
there in that position just short enough that that bullshit meter doesn't catch up to you too
yeah,
much, and then you're out. And so, um, anyway, I mean that's a whole different tangent. But yeah, I think the idea of like responsibility, like there are certain things you cannot change what does happen to you. You will
yeah,
always be able to change the next move.
yeah. And that's it kind of ties into a conversation me and you've had a few times about me of being okay, accepting responsibility, not dwelling in it, moving on, and then what is that response going to be?
Yeah.
Like you said, if you
Yeah.
keep doing the same shit over and over, okay, you're not really taking responsibility for it. You're just using that as a excuse for people to get off your ass, but yet you still keep on doing it.
And you and I have talked
Yeah.
about that a lot too, in terms of like leadership too, right? Like there are times where it's like, if we're trying to get into a place where we have positive, like, being a leader means having influence on people. So if you're trying to get to a place where you're genuinely trying to have positive influence on other people, it also means taking more extreme ownership. And that's like a personal development challenge that like you and I've talked about is exciting, right? Not
Yeah.
everybody has those conversations or care to like be that or do that.
Yeah.
And again, it's very clear when that's the case, but I love to be in a room like with you where the people around you are saying all the right things and showing the action behind it. So like I've always liked that you have been very good about that. Like you pay attention to what, not just like because people are in certain positions just for the sake of it. You pay attention to the people that are exhibiting positive leadership, no matter how big or small. And then like, that's what you're like embodying. And so I like that a lot about you.
Well, thank you. I might not have a lot of good qualities, but damn it, I have some.
Yeah, just
Okay.
you have like the best qualities.
So as we get ready to wrap it up, Harjo, let them know where they can find you at. Again, she covers New York City, New Jersey. Any
Yep.
real estate needs you have out there, definitely reach out to her.
Or if you just want to have a fun conversation and teach me something new. I really
Yeah,
love to learn new things from people. And that's been one of my favorite things, meeting people through all of this.
yeah. And I will say this, but do not reach out to her if you want somebody to sugarcoat shit and to tell you what you want to hear. No. If you want high high quality conversation, if you want somebody that's going to keep it real and check you when you need to be checked, because trust me, she's checked me plenty of times and it is what I've needed, then you reach out. But if you want
I
some
appreciate
BS, then don't reach out. If it's some BS and you just want, to have a pity party, and no, don't do that. Well,
I'll pity
we
party
don't
and
do that.
do a wallow party for if it makes sense, but not like please don't. And just in general, please don't like self victimize or do shit like that. Like it's just nothing less sexy than that.
Right. All right, everybody. Oh yeah, tell them where to find you at. If email
Oh,
or your website.
Instagram, your core team,
Okay.
TikTok for as long as it is, NYCNJ Realtor. Yeah, my email, Harjot, Harjot at kw.com. Yes, that is how you pronounce it. It's Harjot. And yeah, I'd love to connect to people. And especially again, if you can teach me something new, I would be so gratefully appreciative.
So I will definitely drop her Instagram and email in the description below for this episode of the podcast. Again, thank you all for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Peace.